Hello friends, let us study about the fundamental unit of life called cells today. If you have a look at the living organisms, be it animals or the plants, all of them have a very complex body structure. Animals have a body structure made of flesh, blood, nerves, etc. And in plants you will see leaves, flowers, fruits and wood, right? So, and all of these body parts perform various functions like excretion, respiration, reproduction, and so on. So, who is essentially performing or enabling the living body to do all those functions? For example, if I consider your school as a human body, right, then it has various set of cells which perform specific functions, right? The library performs the function of providing and giving the study material to you, right? The kitchen or the pantry provides the function of providing food to you. Now when we go further into the chapter, we will see that these cells essentially are again composed of various components, but the library and the kitchen are kind of capable of independent existence and can carry out all the functions, right, which are required from it. So who gave us those theories of cell? Who told us that cell is an independent unit of life or a fundamental unit of life which can have an independent existence and carry out all the functions? There are four notable scientists who studied about the cells and gave us those theories. First one is Robert Hooke. Robert Hooke was a botanist, and somewhere in the year 1665 he was examining a slice of bottle cork under a crude microscope which he had made for himself, and he observed a structure like this, right? We call it honeycomb structure, right, like the honeybee web. And he named those units, those small units over here, you see those small squares, right? He named those units as cells. Oh, you might be thinking that a wrong slide from history worksheet has come into this chapter. No friends, I have deliberately put it in here just to show you why did Robert Hooke name those square units as cells. He compared it to the cells of a monastery. This is the Monastery of Zographou, and you see those square kind of sections here, right? This is what he tried to make an analogy to the honeycomb structures over here, and just like the monastery cells, he named those units as cells. So friends, when Robert Hooke observed those cork cells and named them as cells, he himself did not realize that he had made a very fundamental discovery about life, right? He had discovered cells which are the fundamental unit of life. It was another scientist called Schleiden who later in the year 1885 gave a theory that all animals and plants are made up of cells. Schleiden actually said that all plants are made up of cells, and there was another scientist called Schwann who supported him, saying that all animals are also made up of cells. This is how he showed various plants and animals cells. Then another scientist called Leeuwenhoek came into the picture. He was the first one to construct a microscope, and he discovered the microorganisms or cells in a drop of water placed under his microscope. Rudolf Virchow gave one more element to the theory of cell, that all the cells arise from pre-existing cells. So before I go further, let us combine and collect the theories from all those four scientists and see what the cell theory in its modern form looks like. So cell is the basic structural and functional unit of life, and all organisms are composed of cells. All cells are produced by pre-existing cells. All the basic functions, for example, repair, growth, movement, communication, respiration, digestion, immunity, are carried out inside the cells. Okay, now that we have understood that cell is the primary and fundamental unit of life, and it in its independent form can execute all the functions, right, that it is required to do. Now let us see, for example, how many cells, you know, total do we need to survive. We will go to that, but before that let me tell you that some organisms need only a single cell to survive, and those organisms are called unicellular organisms. Uni means one, right? And organisms in which a single cell may constitute the whole organism is known as a unicellular organism, right? Let me show you a few examples of unicellular organisms. Calamidomonas is one of them. So within this organism, it's a single cell, and you will see a vacuole, a nucleus, a chloroplast. Later in the chapter we will get to know that all these are parts of a cell, right? Mitochondrion, cell wall, and this is a single cell, right? A big cell, and that is what this organism contains of. Paramecium is another example of a unicellular organism, right? Then diatoms. Diatoms are interesting organisms. They have a silica-like wall and it looks like a glass house. I'll show you. So these are delicate unicellular organisms that have a yellow-brown chloroplast, right? And chloroplast helps them to photosynthesize. Their cell walls are made of silica, almost like a glass house. See how they look like, right? It looks like a glass type of a structure. This is Estrionella. It's a colony of diatoms, lot of diatoms put together. So these are all unicellular organisms. Chlamydomonas. Now we read about unicellular organisms in which a single cell constitutes the whole organism is known as unicellular. On the other hand, when many cells group together in a single body and assume different functions, right? For example, your school, library, kitchen, pantry, staff room, classes, washroom, all are, if we assume them to be cells, all of them come together in a single body called your school building and assume different functions. These are called multicellular organisms. So, human body is a very good example of multicellular organisms. Our kidney, which in turn again has many cells and tissues, assumes the role of excretion. Lungs and trachea assume the role of respiration, right? So many cells come together to form a single body, and these organisms are called multicellular organism. Very common example of multicellular organism is we the humans. So in multicellular organisms you will see many cells, each cell made for a particular function, and cells combine to form tissues. So human beings, this cute little boy and the lizard are both examples of multicellular organisms. Let us now categorize the cells based on the presence or absence of nucleus and other cell bodies in them. So friends, prokaryotes and eukaryotes are the two categorizations of the cell. Now, eu in Greek means good and karyotes means kernel. So, the name of eukaryotes as a good kernel comes from the Greek word, and it means that eukaryotes contain nucleus, right, which has essential genetic material present in them, and many other organelles like Golgi apparatus, mitochondria, etc. Whereas the prokaryotic means before, in Greek, and by before we mean that the very basic form, right? So the prokaryotic cells at the very first place don't contain nucleus, right? And they also lack the other organelles like Golgi apparatus, mitochondria, etc. Right? Now If I ask you to cite a few differences between prokaryotes and eukaryotes, you know what? An obvious difference would be that prokaryotes have to be small as compared to eukaryotes. And why is that? Because we just now told that eukaryotes have many such organelles which prokaryotes don't have, like Golgi apparatus, mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum. So, that is the very first difference between pro and eukaryotes, which is prokaryotes are small, their size ranges from 1 to 10 micrometers, whereas eukaryotes are bigger, their size ranges from 5 to 100 microns. Okay, we just now said prokaryotes lacks nuclear membrane, eukaryotes has all this. Another difference is prokaryotes contain only a single chromosome, whereas eukaryotes have more than one chromosome. Tissue formation is absent, whereas tissue formation is present in most of them. In prokaryotes, cell division is only by binary fission or budding, whereas in eukaryotes, cell division is mitotic or meiotic. Well, that is very obvious, right? In meiotic division, nucleus bifurcates. Since prokaryotes don't have a nucleus, so the only choice they have is binary fission or budding. Now that we have categorized cells into eukaryotes and prokaryotes, before that we studied that there are two types of organisms and a single cell can constitute a whole organism. You must be, wondering how actually does the cell look like, what size it is and what is its shape. So guys, let us peek into it. The size of a cell ranges from 1/10 to 1/1000th of a millimeter, right? And a millimeter is, something around the diameter of this dot, right? The largest human cell is female ovum